Welcome to Ecstatic Stanzas, an educational series on creativity, community, and writing careers. I'm Evelyn Berry, your girlfriend's favorite poet, and today we'll be discussing how to find the time to write. One of the common barriers to becoming a writer or developing a writing practice is a lack of time. We never have enough time, but especially not in the hyper capitalist crush of the 21st century. Whether we are raising kids, working 2 or 3 jobs to pay rent, or taking care of elderly parents, it feels impossible and maybe even irresponsible to take time out of our days to write. But you are a real writer, and so you must write, which means as you're developing a writing practice, you've got to find the time. Because writing, unfortunately, takes time, a lot of time, and sustained attention. Writing requires us to spend long periods uninterrupted to play, discover, revise, become frustrated, become bored, become inspired, and then begin the process over again. My best writing days, as I'm sure is true for many writers, are when I get to spend time away from home, somewhere quiet and comfortable with access to food and water and fresh air. Maybe this could be like an artist colony by the Massachusetts Sea or a writing retreat in the remote hollers of the Tennessee mountains. But most of us don't get those opportunities. And even if we do, it's for a limited time. Uninterrupted time and quiet space is rare. So how do we build a writing practice amongst the chaos of what we call real life? Well, I think that we must develop a schedule during which we prioritize our writing time. It doesn't matter when we write, how often, or for how long, but if we want to write a book, we know this takes an extended period of time. Each draft might take months or years. If we want to get serious about writing, we must think of writing not as an optional activity, but something necessary, something we do on a consistent basis. And there's also something life-giving when we return to the page, and this too can nurture us. I'm often reminded of one of my favorite quotes by Amy Dillard in her book, The Writing Life. She writes, "How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. What we do with this hour and that one is what we are doing. A schedule defends from chaos and whim. It is a net for catching days. It is a scaffolding on which a worker can stand and labor with both hands at sections of time. A schedule is a mock-up of reason and order, willed, faked, and so brought into being. It is a peace and a haven set into the wreck of time. It is a lifeboat on which you find yourself decades later, still living." Writers have a variety of opinions about the best time to write, usually urging beginning writers to wake up early or stay up late. I think this is really solid advice, though perhaps only because I like to, when I'm in the groove, like wake up at 5 in the morning and write. Because at 5 in the morning, there's very little to distract me. No one is emailing me. My partner is at a workout class or is still asleep. My dog is not quite ready for her morning walk, and the neighborhood is quiet and calm. Explore the times your brain is most active throughout the day. For some, it's the morning, for others, early afternoon, and for others, the middle of the night. If you want to be a writer, how might you design your life to allow yourself to be awake and present and energetic and creative, and also sitting at your desk during those times? When we make that time to write, we must also be committed to the act, which I think is sometimes the hardest thing. How do we keep ourselves tethered to the story, committed to the page? How do we not allow ourselves to become distracted by the ping of emails or the allure of the social media scroll? How do we protect ourselves from the intrusion of children or spouses or nosy in-laws? If you're being distracted by, say, the siren of social media, as I am every single day, I suggest using browser extensions to block those sites. Make sure that they are completely blocked during the times you plan to write. Be ruthless. Do not allow yourself to bypass anything or make it too easy. Place your phone across the room if you feel the urge to research something or look up a fact. I suggest not giving into that impulse. Make a note about what you need to research and return to that later, whether in revision or after you finish the scene or the page. It's really, really easy to turn to Google and then Wikipedia and then back to the scroll. It's easy to allow that little side research to turn into distraction. And if you can't resist any of this, something I suggest doing is, putting your phone across the room and then just use pen and paper. Or in my case, I sometimes use a word processor. In 2007, I bought this AlphaSmart Neo 2. It saved me a lot of wasted time. It cost me like $50 from eBay. And the only thing it can do is write. So things like this are practical ways to not just take the time to write, make sure that you are using the time that you have dedicated to writing to actually getting the work done and not becoming distracted. Remember, it is a rare gift when we are afforded time to write, to truly spend time in the deep work. So it's important to respect that time. It's ideal if we could write at the same time every day for the same amount of time to establish writing as a daily practice. But it's never so simple. So we must also steal time. We must write on our phones while reading for our children in car line. We must keep a notebook by our bed so that we can steal ideas from our own dreams. We must write in the car on long road trips when our darling partners take over the wheel. We must write standing in line at the post office or during our lunch break. I'll give you an example. When I had just graduated college, I got a job in a different city. And so every single week I commuted on Friday from one city 3 hours to the other city where I actually lived. And I wrote while I was driving. To do this, I shared ideas out loud into this old voice recorder I had bought for $20 as a young teen back when I was doing journalism for a magazine. If you are lucky enough to work an office job or work from home, especially if you work the kind of job that's unmonitored, unmeasured, something administrative and boring, you could also write at work. Though, of course, I would never do that myself or even suggest doing it or imply that I've ever done it before. But it's just an idea. Regardless, I encourage you to keep a notebook or an extra Word file open. Keep the story in your mind. Keep poetry in your life. Even if it's been years since you wrote, there's still time. You're not dead. There's still time to write the thing you've been meaning to write your entire life. Remember, you are a real writer. So go write.